So, a few weeks ago, I saw a video that was talking about some Twitter conversations that were going on about reading and writing. And mostly it was people who said they wanted to be writers, namely novelists, who said they didn't want to read or they didn't feel the need to read. And I wanted to get into this because, quite frankly, that is a little sad to me and it's a little scary. I don't want to read books by people who don't love books and don't enjoy reading. I, that seems like a huge mistake. So, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about why I think you should be reading. I will also kind of get into some of the reasonings that I saw. Mainly, there's two of them, and why I think that's just kind of a false narrative. And we'll talk about, what makes you different from other writers in terms of reading and how that can be an advantage. So let's get into it. Okay, so hopefully I will not have any interruptions, but we'll see. um, it has been a very exciting week. Well, really for the month. I'm filming this on March 15th. But a week ago, I went to AWP, which is the Association of Writers Programs. And it's basically lots of writers, lots of people who've been published, lots of publishers come to AWP, and we all talk about writing. We all talk about what's going on in publishing. And it was really fun. I did mean to film. However, two things happened. Number one is I got caught up in everything and I forgot to film. I have a little 10-second clip of me walking into the Baltimore Conference Center. And I just said, you know what? I don't even need to post that because it's 10 seconds of just me holding my camera up as we walked in. Right after that, I kind of forgot. But if you go over to my Instagram, I did post a number of photos that I took right at the end because I was like, oh crap, I didn't get any content. So I took some pictures of some of the lectures that I went to and like what the venue looked like and stuff like that. And it was really fun. I highly recommend if you live anywhere and if you live somewhere where AWP is coming, give it a go. The Saturday rate was $25, which I think is a steal. If you want to go all 3 or 4 days, I think it's a couple $100, but to just go on Saturday is $25. And wow, you get a lot of bang for your buck. I went with a group, and all of us agreed that it was definitely worth the money and it was definitely something that you could get a lot out of if you're a writer. But anyways, I will digress from that and say that aside from that, personally, it's been a little exciting because I am mowing through my short stories that I have. And I got the hiccups again. I don't know what it is. Hopefully it won't pick up too badly. But I might just do that every now and then, just like, hiccup. Hopefully I won't have to refilm this. If you're watching this right now, I did not refilm it. Anyway, back to the topic. Over on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, I no longer have an X account. I got rid of mine in 2023, but I did kind of see the discussion that was going on with some people saying that they don't read and they are writers. And that, like I said before, worried me a lot because as I'm going through right now, revising my novella or book or whatever you want to call it, and I'm revising a bunch of other short stories, I kind of have to call on all of the other books that I've read and other short stories that I've read that will help me make my story the best it can be. I think one of the most interesting things is that I just got done writing a new short story, and it is probably the longest short story that I have written in a while. I actually think it's the second longest. But I don't really count the one that is the longest because I actually wrote that in 2018. and I revised it last year. And I think that is the longest. It's about 3,700 words. So I'm not going to count that one because this one I just wrote is about 3,600 words. And it's brand new, like brand new. Like I started it in November, I think, and finally finished. I finally just sat down and completed it when my writing friends and I were having a little write-in, and I said, let's just knock this sucker out. So I'm pretty happy that the story is as long as it is, because I've been wanting to push myself to write longer pieces, because eventually one day I'd like to write a full-length novel. So writing short stories that are longer than 2,000 words is very encouraging to me. And I also think it's because I read a bunch of short stories last year that were longer than 2,000 words. So reading stories that, were still short stories, but definitely expanded the story has kind of pushed me to do that with my own work. Did I emulate those writers? Probably not. But knowing how a short story needs to unfold but still stay, say, under 5,000 words is, very inspiring, and it's good. And I think that that's one of the hidden benefits of reading, is just to know that it's possible to get something that you're looking for. I could sit here and I could say all the other writers that I've known and how they, have encouraged me to read widely, and I could tell stories about that, because I've known a few writers in my lifetime that were well read and encouraged me to be well read. But instead, I'm going to tell the story about what happened yesterday to me. Actually, it wasn't yesterday. It was Wednesday. Today's Sunday. So I think it was Wednesday. I had come across this book, and I got it right here. Rose House by Arcady Martine. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Anyways, I remembered seeing discussions of this book last year when it came out, about a year ago. And I said, oh my God, that looks so interesting. That looks like a really interesting story. But I had so many other books to read, and I was, doing my thing with my writing. So I kind of forgot about it. Yes and no. It was like my TBR is so big, and I was like, yes, it's on the list, but it's not a priority. But on Wednesday, I saw an ad on Instagram, I think, or it might have been on YouTube, something, because I had searched it long ago. And I said, oh yeah, I never read Rose House, So I looked it up on my county library, and my local library branch had a copy. And so yesterday, on Saturday, I went and got it. And I'm already maybe about, 20 pages in, something like that. I am excited to read this book. I was happy. I was excited. I want to know what's going on. I love this feeling. I love this feeling of getting a book that you cannot wait to read. And I don't understand how any writer does not have that feeling. How can you not have this love and joy and excitement to read a book? Any book. Doesn't have to be literary greatness. Doesn't have to be some book that's going to win an award or something. It just has to be any book that you're excited by. And I cannot believe that there are people who want to be writers and don't have this feeling. Now, maybe I'm being weird. Maybe it's just not universal, but damn, it should be. Because I legit was happy driving home from the library. I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to read this book. I cannot wait to read this book. And I hope that anybody watching this feels that too, especially if you're a writer. If you're just a reader, that's okay too. I know plenty of people who read who are not writers, but if you're a writer and you don't love reading, I don't think I want to read your stuff. I'm just going to be honest. That makes me not trust you. I don't trust actors who say they don't watch movies and television. Maybe if they went to plays or something, but I don't trust chefs who don't love food. Why would I trust a writer who doesn't like reading? You know? Now, of course, the only requirement for being a writer is to write. That's it. You don't have to love books. And there are people who are writers who don't read books. If you're a nonfiction writer, maybe you read, a lot of newspapers and articles. If you're a screenwriter, maybe you just read screenplays. And playwrights who read plays. I don't want to make it sound like you must read novels. But if you want to be a novelist, shouldn't you study the form? Shouldn't you find writers who write novels that make you want to write a novel? I don't know. It's weird. So anyways, I'm reading this because one, it's a novella, and I just wrote a novella. And two, it's a story that I'm really excited to read. And I hope that everybody who wants to be a writer is excited like I am excited to read this book, And so far it's pretty good. So let me get into the two reasonings that I came across why people are saying they don't read, but they still want to be writers. So the first reason is they feel like they don't need to. They feel like there's plenty of art out there. There's plenty of media out there, television, movies, plays and things that they can consume to learn how to tell a story, and that they can learn how to write from those mediums. And I would argue that that is a mistake. Now, it is no coincidence that I'm wearing my Harry Potter sweatshirt, because if you read Harry Potter, you know that some stuff happened that did not happen in the movies. Book 4, The Goblet of Fire, there's a whole sub-story with Hermione trying to free the elves. Books 6 and 7, particularly 6, maybe 5 too. I don't know. It's been over a decade since I read Harry Potter, okay? So don't come for me. But I clearly remember in book 6, there was a lot more backstory with Voldemort and where he came from and what his family was like. And you got a much bigger character arc for Voldemort than just he who shall not be named and he wants purebloods. It's way deeper than that. His mother, his father, all of that. And that's not in the movies. And I feel like the books made a complete world. You saw a lot of little things and big things that made the characters feel a lot more fleshed out than they did in the movies. The movies were great. Don't get me wrong. The movies are great. But the book depicts a world, the Prime Minister of England versus the Prime Minister of the Ministry of Magic having conversations together. That's not in the movies, and that's what makes the books feel more real. That's what I loved about them, was that I really did feel like I was transported into a completely different place. You can do that in movies with visual CGI and that kind of thing, and nothing's wrong with that. But as a writer, reading that on the page and what it did on how you do world building, that's a skill you have to learn by reading. It's not just enough to see the movies. You do have to kind of read how the author creates a world, because they do it with more than just this happened and this happened. Sometimes it's the characters interacting with each other that explains this world and how it is. And I just don't think that you can get that trying to write a novel if you only watch televisions and movies. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't use television movies for inspiration. Most definitely you can. But if you want to write a novel, you kind of have to read novels. Also, television and movies are completely different forms than writing. There are some things that are unfilmable. I cringe when I think that somebody is trying to make a movie of the Hyperion books. If you've never read Dan Simmons' Hyperion books, they are brilliant. And I personally love John Keats. So I love them very much. But you can't make that a 2-hour movie. You'd have to cut a lot of characters. It is so expansive. There are so many side stories and characters and how they get introduced. If you know Canterbury Tales, it's a very Canterbury Tales type of at least the first book. I don't think you can cram that into a 2-hour movie. I just don't. And I just remember saying to myself, they're going to make this a movie and it's going to be so bad. It's going to be so bad. But so far they haven't gotten out of development. So maybe they'll smarten up. Could you do a TV show? I think you could do a TV show or even like a limited series or something. But a 2-hour movie, not possible. Another one was one that really disappointed me. And that was, Octavia Butler's Kindred. They made a TV miniseries out of that. And y'all, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. They added extra storylines that didn't make any sense to me and seemed unnecessary. And I realized that they had to stretch it out for, I think it was like 8 episodes or something. And that would have been way more interesting as a 2-hour movie. But no, they made it into a TV series. And they added some stuff that I just didn't like. The main thing was, in the books, the main character, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, she was married. And she was married to a white guy. It's a black woman and a white guy are married. And in the TV show, she just meets this guy. Like, they barely have been dating. And I just said to myself, what is this? This kind of dynamic does not work for the type of story that we're trying to tell. But yet that's what they did. I didn't finish it. It just annoyed me so much that they changed that element and kind of destroyed the relationship between the two characters, that I just felt like, no, I don't think I want to keep watching this. The book is great. The TV show was not. So television and movies are just a different kind of storytelling. And sometimes it's hard to translate something that's on the page into something visual. And thinking that you can watch a movie and then you know how to write a novel, I don't think so, folks. I just don't. So the second reason that I saw, and this is pretty common, and it's a common fear of a lot of writers, and that is they don't want to sound like the person that they're reading. And I can understand that, who you read, definitely you can pick up some of the tics of that writer that you're reading. And some writers are better than others, If you only read sort of the bestsellers, the big books, you may not read the same as someone who reads only classics. And there's a fear that, let's just say you read Stephen King. You read a lot of Stephen King. You might end up writing just like Stephen King. I understand that fear, and I think that I myself have picked up on some tics from writers that I really love. But I will say this. If you read widely, you kind of kill that. You kind of kill that habit. Reading, going from, say, like me, Margaret Atwood, to Stephen King, to Octavia Butler, to Arcady Martine, definitely can help you hone your own voice. Reading widely helps you see what's possible. It helps you see what other writers are doing. So one, you don't repeat it. So people don't say, oh man, just another Stephen King wannabe. But also it helps you know what you like and what you don't like as a writer. I personally loved Hyperion, the series, thought it was great, enjoyed all 4 books. I don't want to write a big, sweeping science fiction book like that. That is not my jam. That is not my lane. So while I enjoyed Hyperion, I'm not going to write that, understanding what it takes to do that kind of world building. And I have not come up with a story that is that expansive yet. But reading it helped me learn how to world build. Reading that helped me see that science fiction can be literary also, to infuse stories that encompass, myths and, poetry, romantic poetry, because that's what John Keats was. He was a romantic poet. What it means to be human, artificial intelligence. I mean, they were talking about artificial intelligence in that book years before we ever had ChatGPT. So, but it's important to understand that reading widely will help you grow your own voice. I think I talked about that some in a video I did a while back called Finding Your Author Voice. The fear that you're going to sound like some writer that you're reading is a valid one, but I would not worry about that. Writing is a craft, and you have to work on it. You have to hone it. And pretty soon, you might even make different choices than the people that you're reading. I don't really worry about reading while I'm crafting my fiction, mainly because I read so much. And I'm not even like somebody who reads 100 books a year. Maybe at one time in my life I was doing that, but now I hover between 15 and 20 a year. But even if I was somebody that read, a book a week or 2 books a week or something like that, I don't actually think at this point in my writing that I would be sounding like the people that I read, mainly because I have grown so much as a writer and found my voice and honed my craft that I don't have that fear. To me, that is a beginner's fear, that you're going to write like other writers that you read. But the more you write and the more you read, the more you should get more confident in your own voice, and especially more confident in your story. When you know how your story is supposed to unfold, and I don't mean like what each plot point is. Maybe you do that, maybe you've outlined, but I mean more like the soul of your story. You know the themes, your character. Imitating somebody else that maybe you admire, maybe you just picked up at the library, that doesn't really, in my opinion, I don't really think that happens. I think you can read a story and enjoy it, and read it for understanding what the writer is doing. But you don't necessarily read it to teach you how to tell your story like them. It's more of you're reading the story to teach you how to find it your own way, if that makes sense. I hope so. I didn't read Dan Simmons' Hyperion because I wanted to write a big, expansive science fiction story. I read it because I love John Keats, and somebody was like, "You should read this." And I was like, "Yes, I should." But it didn't make me want to run out and write an epic science fiction story. Instead, it made me want to examine harder character and how I would, infuse a little literary techniques into my writing, whether it's someone telling their story to a group of people, or whether I'm infusing myths into a modern day story, or just expanding on humanity and how we interact with each other. You can be inspired by somebody else's writing and not copy it, but you only do that if you read more than a little bit. If you're only reading 1 book a year, you might be influenced by that 1 book. If you read 10 books a year, you might get a different result. So at the end of this video, I think my bottom line is going to be read a lot. Read a lot, enjoy reading, and be confident in how you approach your story. All of us had to go through these sort of fears that we were going to sound like another person. And even maybe the arrogance of, I don't need to read books, I'm just going to write them. But writing can humble you. And when you write something and you don't know your own voice because you haven't worked on it, and you don't know what's come before, so you end up sounding pretty much like everybody else. I want you to sound unique, and you only get there by seeing what else is out there and doing your own thing. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit now. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up and consider subscribing. I will see you on the next video. Bye.